Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this edition of the Weekend Wrap-Up. I'm David Thomas. This is Mr. Josh Blevins.
Notable community activist Josh
Exactly.
Blevins, which we're going to get to later in the show as a little
community
tease.
activists.
So,
yeah. All right. Well, before we dive into all the stuff, we got pages and pages of
we're
stuff
going to be here. Yeah, just go ahead and get comfortable because we're going to be
popcorn
here a minute.
if you want to do popcorn this early in the day, or go refill the coffee mug because we got a lot to cover. So just buckle in. We're going to be right back after we hear from our sponsor, Dennis Young Insurance. We'll be right back.
Get the results you want with the personalized service you deserve at Dennis Young Insurance Agency.
As a local independent agency, we offer coverage from several different companies, including Erie. So whether it's auto, home, life, personal, or business, we can find the right coverage to meet your unique insurance needs. And with a rate lock advantage, your rates won't go up as long as you do not change drivers, autos, or addresses. Contact us at Dennis Young Insurance Agency, insuring Shelbyville and surrounding areas since 19...
All righty. Again, welcome back in here to the Weekend Wrap-Up Show. I'm David Thomas. I've already done the introductions, and I'm going to introduce him differently. Mr. Troublemaker, tell us what's going on. What all happened this week?
What happened this week? We've got so much. So I'm going to do something I don't usually do. I'm going to give you a quick rundown of where we're going. So in case you want to skip forward to some of it later on, you know where we're going to head. We're going to start in Bell Buckle first, which we don't usually do. We're going to start with the smoke in Bell Buckle. We got Tuesday. We had county committee meetings. We're going to go to those. We get a lot of news there about speed limits and flock safety, courthouse lighting, lights on the sports fields. Thursday, we're going to get to some information about MTSU Flight School that nobody's covered yet in the media. We're going to also, Thursday, we're going to have all new news about Remington Farms and stuff that's not been covered over there yet, and a lot more in planning. So just so you know where we're headed.
All right.
That's where we're going, but buckle up. So we're speaking of buckle up, we're going to start in Bell Buckle.
All right.
Monday, there was a post by Alley Barbecue that they had reached their limit on going back and forth with the town of Bell Buckle and that they were going to close their business. Just some background. We first talked about Alley Barbecue in Bell Buckle on the August 17th, 2024 show. If you want to go back and watch that one, you can see we played clips and stuff then. The restaurant opened in Bell Buckle October 14th, 2023. I actually ran into the young man that started it a few weeks before that. I have a weekly Friday morning coffee that I go to in Bell Buckle, so I'm there once a week. And he came to one of our Friday morning coffees and introduced himself and just said he was about to open a barbecue restaurant there in town. So I've eaten there twice. Good barbecue, great brisket sandwich. It's huge. You leave and you can take some to go. There's so much on the sandwich. It's a big old sandwich. So they opened October 2023. In July of the following year, last year, 2024, the Board of Mayor and Aldermen at a meeting announced that they had received complaints from local residents about smoke coming from the barbecue place.
Yes.
So that it was causing health issues for several of the town citizens. So if you know anything about a barbecue restaurant, David, they cook barbecue in a big old smoker.
Yes, they do.
So you can't do that inside the building.
Nope.
So this is not a restaurant where you can put up a hood and cook inside.
Right.
They did it outside in the, if you've ever been to Bell Buckle, you got the main strip where you've got the cafe and everything. And then there's kind of that little side strip headed towards Webb School where you've got kind of a shorter little strip of businesses there. And they're in behind there in the alley, literally the name Alley Barbecue. So, so they got some complaints. And they brought him up at that meeting. And then the reason we covered it in August, at the August meeting, a gentleman who was the alderman at the time, which was not after this particular meeting, he made some statements that set a lot of people off. He compared what they were doing to, smoking a cigarette inside a building, which is really not the same.
Yeah.
But then he gave a pretty bad rendition of the Good Samaritan story, where the Good Samaritan seemed to be a gentleman that might have come from Mexico and had a weird accent. So it didn't go over well. The man that did that later, I believe, lost his job at Webb School. I think that video went pretty viral. So. So in the end, the final request from the city was they wanted them to not cook the barbecue at the restaurant. They wanted them to cook it at their house and then bring it into the restaurant and serve it.
Let me tell you something. Here's I like barbecue.
Yeah.
Okay. You can tell by looking at me. I like barbecue.
You've eaten some barbecue.
I've eaten barbecue. Yeah. All right. And there's nothing better than to be driving down the road and smelling that barbecue smell and doing a U-turn to go back and find out where it is. Barbecue. That's the nature of the beast with barbecue. If you don't have that cook smell, that smoker going on that gets everybody's senses up, then you're missing something.
I like a good barbecue smell. I think I told the story back when we did this in August in Nashville, Harding Place at Lindbar. There's one of those places. They smoke chickens. Yeah. They've got 8 of those things right next to a sidewalk, and every time we drive by there, you roll the windows down and you try to smell the smoke of the chicken. It smells so good.
It's awesome.
Makes you hungry. So
maybe that's it. Maybe everybody was hungry over there all the time.
I don't know. So what happened was the whole thing got out of hand online. There's something, you can look it up on Facebook if you want to. Many people in town have looked it up. It's called Squeaky Wheel Barbecue. Somebody in the town has set up a Facebook account, and they basically, I can't remember what they're they call it performance satire or something. It's basically them mocking the barbecue people, it seems like to me. So there's been so much back and forth between the city and these people. End of the story is, which we're getting to today, is they made the announcement on Monday. They're closing the end of this month. They're currently going to be open today and tomorrow. Today they're open 11 to 7. Tomorrow they open after church to 6. And then this coming week they're open Monday and Friday 11 to 7. That'll be the end of the month, and they're going to close. So that's kind of the end of their story.
Well, now the story online seems to be that people are encouraging them to come over here and open up.
Yeah, a lot of people from War Trace is like open.
Come out here to Flat Creek even.
Yeah, I don't think the whole story's over. No. Hopefully they're going to reopen somewhere else. And I'll just say, and again, I go to Bell Buckle every week on Friday. There's a lot of great people in Bell Buckle. I don't think this is reflective on most of the people in Bell Buckle. But for whatever reason, this is a story this is the second time that it's happened, because we have a good friend that comes to our breakfast a lot of time that had a business called Linfield Gardens there. And they were in court going back to 2017 with the city of Bell Buckle and a neighbor over them not wanting them to open their event venue there, and they're technically outside the city limits. One edge of their property is the city limits of Bell Buckle, and they were years and years fighting, and they're finally fully open now and got through it. But I don't know what it is. There just seems to be a little bit of maybe a small town pushback against outsiders that kind of gets out of hand sometimes in Bell Buckle for some reason. And, again, a lot of great people there. I enjoy Bell Buckle. Yeah. I go at least once a week, and I'm not going to stop going to Bell Buckle because of this, but there is something underlying there that there seems to be at least maybe a few bad apples somewhere.
Yeah. Historic town that's known all over the country, probably all over the world.
Oh, sure.
You've heard of, everybody's heard of Bell Buckle.
The Moon Pie Festival.
But people have, if you mention Bell Buckle, then everybody goes, I've heard of that. You know, no matter where you are, if you throw that out there,
it's a catchy, unique name too,
so that historical and the notoriety that they have, I hope this doesn't dampen, and hopefully this little story stays local and doesn't get out. And they say those people fight all the time, but that's not what this is really. But it is interesting that we do have some pushback from time to time, and I hope that it continues to be the welcoming town that it is, because they welcome people in and they fill that place up a time or two a year.
They do, yeah. Maybe if we can have a little more welcoming of new businesses, that might help, overall, it seems like. So, but we'll keep following it if something else changes in the story. We hadn't covered it since August of last year because it had just been kind of ongoing back and forth. But this announcement that they were going to close was a big enough deal that we thought we'd bring it back up again. So, and if you want some barbecue, use one of those dates and times that we mentioned and go out and get some before they're shut down. So I may go Sunday after church if I get a minute.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah. Going into Tuesday, we had county committee meetings. I was not able to attend because I was taking my classes on how to be a good councilman.
Yeah.
So I attempted to watch from home, and we had a lot of technical difficulties with this one. For whatever reason, live stream difficulties. I just wanted to mention on that I mentioned that not to be critical, because as you and I know, we do a lot of live streams.
Oh, yeah, man. It can be.
If you tried to watch our Christmas parade this year, when things go sideways in a live stream, it's hard to get.
Josh.
And it's live. You can't stop everything. Everybody just hold
on,
there.
Time out.
30 minutes.
Stop. But when you're doing live stream, everything hinges on your internet connection.
Oh, sure.
And we have internet glitches around here it's just nonstop.
We were hardwired into fiber internet at the Christmas parade, and of all the times United Fiber, it went down for like 20
Never
minutes.
has happened to us here.
Never.
Knock on wood.
Yeah. But at the time that we needed it, it did. So yeah. And which is to say that we're not criticizing the county because the live stream glitched. It happens. But just pointing out the fact that there's some things that we wish we were able to talk about that happened at this meeting that we couldn't see them because the live stream didn't work. And the first of those, and it was what we talked about last week, was the county commission is going to be voting to establish a county wastewater authority at the next county commission meeting. And whatever discussion of that happened at this committee meeting is lost in the ether. So if you weren't at the meeting, you didn't hear it because it didn't make it on the live stream. So again, don't have enough information on this to feel good about it one way or the other. I did have a talk this week. I ran into our county planner, Chris White, and our county attorney, John T., at coffee break.
Right.
And talk to them for about 15 minutes just to kind of get a feel. Their side of it is they want more control over incoming development and maybe step systems and whatnot. The only thing I'm seeing is I did a little bit of online research I could do. And there's just a handful of these county wastewater authorities in the state of Tennessee that I could find at all. And all of them that have been established, they have county sewer system and they're using it to actually provide wastewater services, which I don't think we as a county want to get into that. Sewer, everything I know about it, which isn't a whole lot, but what I've heard about it, just the little bit I've been in government, is sewers is a money loser. You can't make money in the sewer business. So
I don't think that's what this is about.
Yeah, and I hope it's not what it's about. But again, I wish we could get some more discussion of it before this. It's moving kind of quick. This is a big deal.
There are some sources that we can talk to.
There are. But this is, we're going to a private act at the state legislature. So that's not a small move to do. You don't do a lot of these, and it's happening really quick. And I wish there was some way to get a little more, discussion, feedback, a little more out in the public before the county commission has to vote on this and send it up to the state legislature. But it doesn't look like we're going to get that. I think we're going to get a vote in a couple of weeks, and it's going to go right up to the state.
Maybe we can find out something and have more details for next week's show. I know somebody that's kind of plugged into that, and I'm going to try to find out a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think some of the county commissioners would even like more information. It'd be nice if they could have some kind of special meeting or something, just like obviously an announced public meeting, but a meeting before the county commission meeting, kind of more of a public discussion of this before it moves forward. So another big thing that did make it on the live stream, and we were able to, I actually did a post about it, is the county is proposing new speed limits on county roads. What I didn't know before this meeting was if you're in a county in the state of Tennessee and you don't have a posted speed limit, I always thought 45 miles an hour. That's kind of what I thought. I found out at the meeting it's 55. So I could have been driving faster all these years.
Man, you've been too slow.
I've been driving too slow. So, but the proposal is they want to put 45 mile per hour signs on the collector roads, which they listed those. It was like 20 of them or something. It's on our post. 30 miles an hour on the local roads, which is the majority. There's 630 some roads in the county. The majority of those are considered local roads. So most of the roads in the county would go to 30 miles an hour. And then if a road dead ends, they want a 25 mile an hour sign on it so that you don't, I guess, accidentally drive off the end of the dead end. So also, and this is a side note, this didn't have anything to do with the county, but the Rutherford County posted in coordination with TDOT, which they had put some signs on the road already starting, and I didn't put the date down, sometime later this month, 231 North from the county line up into Murfreesboro is going down to 55 all the way. It's been 65 for years.
Let me give you a little background on that, Josh. I know why this took place. My son lives in Christiana. And they have had several deaths this year where people are trying to cross the highway. And they're getting hit, and there's just right through that area. There's a lot of population. It's
exploded.
Yes, we're going to probably start seeing some traffic lights installed in through there too, through Christiana.
I would think so.
But there's been, I think, 4 deaths this year.
Oh wow!
Right there through that little stretch, and that stretch is currently 65.
Right.
So that will basically take from the county line on into where it had dropped down before when you start getting to the outskirts.
Of we actually get to 40.
Now it's all going to be 55. So when you cross the county line, you're basically considered in the outskirts of Murfreesboro at that point.
That's what's happened. True. It's expanded that far. Yeah. So, I mean, and honestly, from the county line down to where it changes to down to 55 and Decent, at that point, that's such a short stretch. At some point, I would imagine they'll just change the whole to 55. I mean, you're going to have such a narrow stretch of 65 at this point. It almost seems pointless to even keep that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's going on. So we got those county speed limits going down. We got the state highway speed limit going down. And then at the end of the first committee meeting, our friend Biff Fair gave a long talk on a number of things. He's gotten complaints, concerns from other members of the county commission. And he made a suggestion at the end, and I brought a couple of clips today. If you could play clip 1, we're going to hear from Biff on a new committee he would like to see brought into the county.
Because I asked him once or twice, he said, don't y'all have a special committee down there? He said, no, that those 7 are taking care of it. He said, who on a commission would let the county mayor and the superintendent of schools and the highway department decide your budget? That's pretty good question that Charlie fielded to me, and all of us as commissioners. I mean, all of us need to think about this, and then I'm going to read the rest of this. And he said he was one that recommended this. He said, Tennessee Code Annotated is 5-21-105, special committees, general provisions. A, the county legislative body may authorize the committee to assume the functions of any or all of the following special committees or the county legislative committee. Outside of the finance department, a budget committee, just for the budget. 2, an investment committee to watch, I guess, Robert Daniel and the rest of that department, investment committee. And then 3, a purchasing committee. Now, I don't recommend any of the second or third one, but I do think we need to look and consider, discuss, and debate, and we got the time to do it before, April.
Okay, so Biff is wanting to form a new committee.
Budget committee, it's allowed, it is not required under TCA, but it is allowed for counties to have a special committee just to look at the budget. And his discussion there, which he said he got a lot of this from Charlie Curtis, who is our CTAS rep at the state that helps, kind of guide the county government, is that our current structure is our finance committee is the only one that looks at the budget. And as he mentioned, a lot of the members of the finance committee, these budgets affect their department. Right. I mean, so they're setting the budget for their own department. He'd rather have somebody else overseeing their budget than the person that's actually in the department, benefiting from
somebody without a conflict.
Somebody that's not as conflicted on the budget. Right. So, yeah.
Okay, so right now our budget and finance committee consists of the 3 he talked about, the mayor, the superintendent of schools, and the road superintendent.
By state law. By state law. By our, I don't know why. There's a reason.
And our financial director is an ex officio member?
I think he is, yeah.
Okay, then we have 4
4 could be anybody, but we've elected to put county commissioners.
Okay,
right? Yeah.
All right. So this can be a committee that's not composed of commissioners. This can be
the budget committee. Could be, yeah.
Right.
Or they could just pick some other people from the county commission that maybe aren't department heads or somebody that's voting on their own budget, kind of thing. So. It's his suggestion. We've mentioned this. This has kind of been going on, and if you listen to if you go on the county YouTube and listen to his entire statement, this all goes back to the bundle deal that was discussed, and a lot of other issues that have gotten controversial because of the fact that everything, which kind of makes sense, but everything that has money is going through the finance department. Those are the controversial issues. He's just wanting to get some more oversight in there, I think.
Right.
So
right now, Josh, the way I see things, and since I've been watching county and city government closer, is that when it comes down to the money, it seems like things are pre-constructed when they come to these meetings. Okay. Of course, you have all these department heads that know what they're going to need. Yeah. And they throw it into the mix, and the financial director and his department puts down a proposed budget, when in fact you already have it in place. Then you don't have a whole lot of discussion taking place on the nuts and bolts of it. The nuts and bolts are already put together, and then you go to the finance committee. They all come through it. Your commissioners are sitting there. They don't really know what's happening unless they've had some hand in that meeting before the meeting.
Right.
And they don't really know. You get a big book, the commissioners do, and you got a week to go over it. And you're looking at this, and there's no discussion. And if you ask a question, you're a troublemaker. That's the way I see it.
I think you're not far off. So, and yeah, the county commissioners themselves, particularly the ones that don't sit on that finance committee, which the majority of them, 14, don't, only 4 do. They do hold a special budget meeting for them every year.
Yeah.
But you're right. At that point, it's almost all but a done deal. I mean, it hasn't been voted on, but everything's laid out. And I've been to 2 years of this now. There's very little chance that you as a county commissioner could go in and look at a department and say, hey, you're overspending on whatever, XYZ over here, or, oh, I feel like you're a little heavy on this. I mean, by the time you get there, you're looking pretty much big picture, the overall numbers. And as far as the nuts and bolts and the small stuff, you don't have a lot of say in it.
The issue, though, Josh, when you look at the whole thing as a package, the appearance of conflicts create questions.
Sure.
That's the whole thing. So he's talking about a committee that would open it up just a little bit more to more transparency, to where there wasn't as many questionable connections and so forth.
Yeah. Hopefully it would be, and I don't know that he mentioned a number. And this is, again, it's in TCA, so it's I would assume this is like a 5-member or 7-member committee. And you would hope you get 5 or 7 members that don't have any connection to any of the departments in the county. So they're looking at the budget, hopefully from a non-attached, kind of a detached look, just kind of a, somebody that doesn't have any dog in the hunt, that's just looking at it and saying, hey, then they can look line by line and actually go over the individual departments and say, hey, maybe you're overspending a little bit here. Maybe you could tighten up a little bit here.
I'm not criticizing anybody that's on there, because I think they do the best they can, really. But just to look, if you put me on the committee that's approving my budget for my department, whatever that might be, I'm going to get all I can. I need to be able to do my job better than anybody, and I want all the money I can get. So that's just a natural occurrence.
Yeah. So, and yeah, I don't think it would be a bad thing. Honestly, Biff said there at the meeting that this is an open discussion. He's going to try to bring it up hopefully next month, but whether this proposal will go anywhere, we won't know until I guess we get to next month and see if they do it. And like you said, they've got till April. Yeah. I mean, we're already next month's February, so they would have to move pretty quick to do this. So at the, believe we're calling it Public Safety Committee now. They just renamed it. It used to be Law Enforcement Committee. There was a little bit of a discussion, and we came across this at the city, so I thought I'd cover it as well. Dogs and shelter. We had a very cold week, particularly at night. I think I went to coffee one morning. It was 5 degrees on one of my thermometers when I got up. And obviously, if you're a dog and you're outside and it's 5 degrees, unless you're a couple breeds, a lot of them are not going to be happy. So there are state laws regarding shelter for a dog outside. You have to have, 3 walls, a roof, a floor. You have to have bedding. You have to have food. You have to have water. And animal control from both the county and the city was getting a lot of complaints from a neighbor that would see another neighbor that was just leaving their dogs out, and they felt like it was too cold. So the head of county animal control gave a little bit of a talk at the committee meeting, just kind of explaining what the state law is, what they can and cannot do to intervene. If their shelter isn't up to state, standards, I guess they could confiscate a dog. But if your neighbor has a dog and he meets all the state standards, they can't just go on somebody's property and take their animal from them. If they're up to, the law is the law. They can only enforce the law that's on the books. So if you're not happy about the law that's on the books, I know the city has once or possibly twice tried to pass a no chain ordinance, and both times it's failed. Due to pushback from I don't know who, honestly. So if you feel strongly about this is something I would reach out to the city and the county and say, hey, you need to pass stronger laws. If the stronger laws are in place, then the animal control could enforce them. So just to say they're doing what they can. There was a story that made its way online. I actually got contacted by a couple media people from Nashville this week about 2 dogs here in the city limits. And now the original claims that were given to them and that came to me were that police and animal control were not intervening. That was not true. They'd been to that house multiple times, but the owner kept getting it up to the minimum standards, so there was nothing animal control could do to take the dogs out of that situation. What ended up happening was a private rescue group out of the Nashville or maybe Williamson County area came down and convinced the owner to surrender the dogs, which at that point they were able to take the dogs and they got them out of town. But animal control, again, can't just walk onto somebody's property and take dogs if they're meeting the law. So that's, that was the discussion.
Josh, before you keep going, I do see the comments that are coming in from a couple of people.
Yeah.
And we will circle back around to you guys that have made comments. But right now, we've got so much to cover today. I want to keep Josh rolling. So
we'll keep rolling. When we get to the end of committee meetings, we'll go back.
Well, there's something in the planning commission area that can be talked about, and we'll wait to get to that, Evelyn.
Yep, we are doing.
And also the lady that was commenting about the barbecue situation. We'll circle back to you as well, Chrissy Moore. But we'll get back to it. Go ahead, Josh. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Also at the Public Safety Committee, this is one we covered at the city. This has now come to the county. Flock Safety. They must have hired like a new salesman working this area or something, because the same guy showed up, gave a presentation to the county, and he's trying to get the county to put in the flock safety cameras in the county. The city approved them there a few months ago. As far as I know, I don't think they've installed them yet. I think we're still waiting for those. We've still just got the 2.
Yeah.
But the proposal for the county is, and I didn't even hear this at city side, they won't even come in for less than 8 cameras. So you got to have an 8 camera minimum. Their recommendation, of course, would not be the minimum. They're recommending 14 to put us on lockdown mode. Costs, same as it would be for as the city's going to pay $3,000 per year per camera. So at the minimum, that'd be $24,000 a year, and you do the math on the 14. The discussion was they may want to put them in even in the current budget year, which they think they could find a budget amendment. I mean, $24,000 isn't the end of the world in the county budget. They think they could probably find something in there and slide it in there under another item that's already there. So we'll see about that. We had the longer discussion previously on this. There are a few concerns with this system, nothing major that makes it necessarily a bad thing. Little bit I've heard just listening to scanner traffic and stuff from the police department. You just got to be careful on false positives on one like this. It could scan, and I've heard this happen more than once. It scans a plate and gives a readout of a particular plate number, which is one that's, like somebody wanted or something. They actually get to the scene, an actual officer, and look at it, and it's misread the plate, or the person ends up not being what was in the, let's look at NCIC. Maybe there's some bad information in there. So you just got to be really careful. And I'd heard this, somebody had reached out to me after we talked about this last time, another officer on the county side. And you're doing a felony stop on somebody. You got an officer that's hyped up. He thinks, you may think as an officer, you might go into a situation thinking you've got a serial killer in this car. So you're going to be hyped up. You're going to be adrenaline. And really, it's just a guy, a knife salesman down from Nashville or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Something goes wrong in the exchange. The officer thinks he's reaching for something too quick. One of these things, you got to use a lot of caution on both sides. So
I've got mixed feelings about it. I think it's good law enforcement to be able to track people like that are wanted.
Oh yeah.
But also there's another camera hanging in the air monitoring us all to some degree. So what starts out with good intent can turn later. And it just depends on the way things change with our technology. Can they be hacked? And, can somebody use it to monitor, who knows? I guess I've been watching too many crime shows.
Yeah, you watch too many movies. And I realize, the privacy concern is always there. But then you got to realize, we all carry this in our pocket. As long as you get that in your pocket.
We're under surveillance.
You're being, at some level you can be tracked.
Do you want one more pointing at you, though, Josh?
I
don't have a problem with these. I think it helps our police officers.
Well, and
if it's effective, if it's it's accurate, and that all gets down to a lot of information being circulated and passed.
Sure, and even to the camera side being watched. If you walk in any neighborhood in town now, everybody has. I personally have 2 cameras on my house.
You're watching us, Josh.
Everybody's watching everybody now, so privacy, unfortunately, has kind of gone out the window. So, okay, one of your favorite topics. Just I'll mention it because it was brought up late in the meeting. The courthouse lighting materials have been delivered, David. I know you're looking forward to the bright lights on the courthouse.
I just want to know they're $278,000 bright. That's what I'm wondering.
Remember, that was the wires, not the lights. The wires were the expensive part. So they're currently scheduling the electrical upgrades that need to happen to the building before they can install them. But the story all along had been that they were backordered on the actual materials. They do now have the materials, but now they're just scheduling things. So it's coming soon. So, and then lastly, on committee meetings, there was a discussion at the very end of the very last committee, which is the courthouse and property one. This is our friend Diane Neely, and she's concerned about why the county commission didn't get any notification. They borrowed the county commission voted to borrow $43 million to build Cartwright School out here.
Right.
And as we talked about a few weeks ago, it didn't cost $43 million. It cost 40
we
points. Saved money, quote unquote, saved. So rather than actually saving the money and not spending it, we went ahead and spent the money. We just spent it on a different project.
Right.
So she was hoping to get a little more transparency as far as, when and why that happened. And let's just, if you could play clip 2, we'll hear her concerns, then we'll talk about it for a second.
Right. The expectation that their decisions would then come back to the commission for you to validate before on funds that were already appropriated for the education side was not, you can call it transparency, and I don't mind if the commission wants to vote to say that all the decisions of the school board come back to them for final before you act on them. That's certainly something that you could do.
The commission borrowed $43 million.
Correct.
So we were the ones who funded that. We were the ones that stepped up to the plate and borrowed the money.
Correct.
So whatever that money is going to be used for, I think it would only be fair for the commission to at least be in the loop. And maybe I'm looking at it wrong.
And I don't know if it, and I guess, because I wasn't aware of it. And so I think for me as well, I think I might at least just be a heads up, maybe in the December meeting, that, hey, there was excess. We're going to be utilizing that funds over in something else. It's more of, I guess, more of notification, not necessarily approval.
I think it's been in the reports along the journey of how the money was evolving or where the opportunities to address other needs.
To the financial management committee.
Okay, Josh, that's that. Now, what are we talking about?
Okay, so to recap, the county commission borrowed $43 million to build the school.
Right.
The school costs $2.5 million less than that.
Saved the money.
So the school board went ahead and spent the money anyways on lighting at the athletic fields, which is not a bad thing to spend money on. LED lights at all the athletic fields. The concern from the county commissioners, there are a couple of them mentioned it, was that money that's taxpayer money. I mean, at the end of the day, it's taxpayer money. It's borrowed money that the taxpayers are going to have to pay back. Let's get this clear. It's our money.
Let me tell you.
Yeah.
If it's the city or the county and they're talking about money, it's our money.
It's our money.
Okay. Let's go forward thinking that way.
Yeah. So they're spending our money. They were asking if they got a heads up. Now, it was mentioned there in that clip that, there were all these reports. I go to all these meetings and I get these reports, and I can tell you fairly clearly, I would love to see this report that was handed out that explained this. I know for a fact that the school board for months and months and months asked the finance department for a report on the final breakdown of Cartwright, what it cost, what the savings were. The school board, and only the school board, received that report maybe 2 months ago. It was a meeting I missed, so I want to say it was at the December meeting.
Let's talk about that just for a second and the process. So you've got this school building that's built, and when you go and you have the opening day of it, you have the ribbon cutting, and that very same time frame, you're saving. Say we saved $2.3 million or whatever it is, and that means you've got a piece of paper somewhere that shows down all the cost, what you actually spent on it, and what you actually saved on. You've got that. If you're able to quote that number, you know what that is. So that figure is the question mark. What happened to that money?
Right. Now, the discussion of why it took a while to get it to them was that there were a few vendors hanging out there. They hadn't got a final invoice, and the invoice hadn't been paid.
There's a possibility that we didn't save that money.
Right. But there was a report in, and I want to say December. I could be wrong. It could be November. But it's very recent. I'm fairly certain December, that went to the school board, but it went to the school board alone. It did not go to the county commission. It was not in the finance reports, which I get every month intentionally, so we read them as well. And you heard two commissioners there say, we didn't get this information. So, and they're not asking, and, the illusion was made there, oh, do you want to vote on everything the school board does? They're not asking to vote to second guess the school board. They're just asking to stay in the loop on these projects, particularly when it comes to taxpayer money. That's our money that's being spent.
Josh, stuff like this creates friction between different departments. And when I know that they're two different entities, the school board and the commission.
Right.
But there should be communication to where people are notified about, hey, what do y'all think about us doing this with the money?
Yeah.
Since it's actually coming through the county government to the Board of Education to do this. Hey, I'm all for these LEDs. It's going to save a lot of money on power bills.
Oh, yeah, long term.
And it's a good thing. It's not about that. It's about the communication between our departments. And when you have that, you start to have accusations come out. And it looks bad that there's no transparency between these two and there's no communication. And that throws a question mark up for everybody.
Yeah, and again, the implication there was that there's some reports that you guys didn't read, and I could be wrong, and we've had to make corrections here before, but I would love to see the report that's being referenced there, because there was nothing. There was in a what has started happening. This has just happened the last 2 or 3 months. There's a report giving by our owner's rep to the finance committee about what's going on in construction in the county. They've started a month after he gives that presentation to finance. They now pass that report to the Courthouse and Property Committee a month later on their agenda. So like in December, they got the November report. January, they got the December report. And on one of those reports, it did mention there was a single line on them that said that they're considering sports lights, didn't have a dollar figure attached, didn't say that the funding was coming from Cartwright, just said there was a consideration going on there. There was never a follow-up report that said that happened. The way that Commissioner Neely found out about the lights and what was happening is she actually watched a school board meeting.
Right.
Yeah, and it was obviously
everybody needs to be in the loop on this stuff. Whether they pay attention to the reports or not, they should get accurate reports.
Yeah.
And this would create less of a question mark, I think. Yeah. And if you ask a question, sometimes you're looked at as a troublemaker, and that's not the intent. I think everybody that has a question about this will go along with the lights. It's just a fact that, hey, this is coming out of left field.
Right.
We got a lot of left field activity.
Yeah. And we're often accused of having, contrary opinions, as it were. If you actually read, I'll give a shout out to Times Gazette this week. Yeah. If you read the Times Gazette, their article on the inside regarding this very issue, where they take seems like they had the same opinion that we're espousing here, which is there should have been a little more openness in this process. The lights aren't a bad thing, but the process maybe could have been cleaned up.
It creates a lack of trust when you find out things, after the fact.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it just creates a lack of trust. I don't know why anybody would want to create that much doubt. And I don't know if it's intentional. I think sometimes it is. Just say, we'll just ask forgiveness. We'll do this and ask for forgiveness. But you're dealing with people's money here. We're talking about taxpayer money. We're not talking about money falling out of the sky here.
Right. Yeah. This wasn't even like grant money. So, real quick, do you want to circle to the barbecue comment, and then we're going to move on to
and this is basically talking about what we talked about to start with. Sometimes it takes we're on a little delay and we don't get these comments after we've moved on.
Yeah.
And as Chrissy Moore's talking about, she said, I don't know about the outsider concept justification, but I grew up in Bell Buckle and don't understand this nonsense at all. Maybe outsider leadership now? Question mark. My dad was an alderman for years and was raised there. God rest his soul. He would be ashamed. I pray this business relocates to a welcoming community in Bedford County because we don't have many barbecue options in our area. Consider Flat Creek! Exclamation point
on Flat Creek. Yeah, I've heard from
Flat Creek.
There's been a lot of communities that would love to have this barbecue place.
Okay, and we're talking about planning commissions and new projects coming up.
We'll get to that.
This is the question that Evelyn Dye asked Josh. Any truth that Walmart distribution is gearing to go to fully automation? If so, workers will be greatly affected. So that's a question about an upgrade at Walmart distribution.
I do not have any information on that, nor have I heard that. I do know that Walmart Distribution Center is about to almost double their square footage. They're doing a massive expansion project out there. But as far as the automation side, I've not even heard that rumor.
If you look at Amazon, you look at the large places that move a lot of product, they're trying to automate as much as possible.
Sure.
For expediting deliveries and keeping the chain, the supply chain moving along. Yeah. So this is going to be expected moving forward. Anytime the robotics come into play, and that's probably what she's talking about here. I think as long as there's robots, there's going to have to be humans around watching the robots.
I hope so, because I've seen all those movies too, and you don't want what happens there.
Evelyn, I don't think there's anything to worry about affecting the current workers. I think it might enhance their jobs a bit and help them a bit. Sure. That's just my thoughts. I don't know. We'll if we hear anything though, we will report it.
Oh, for sure, absolutely. So moving on in the week to Thursday, the city had their airport committee meeting. And this is not one I attend, but I also watched it online. And the big news out of this is MTSU Flight School just opened this week. So we now have an active MTSU Flight School at the airport. They put in a modular building.
What?
A modular building.
A portable.
They put in a portable, basically. Yeah, you could call it a portable. They also, as you would need for a flight school, they brought 14 planes. They said that number currently will vary somewhere 12 to 15 range. They have 20 teachers and 85 students. They're obviously, the big plan is a full campus building there. Construction set to start this spring, hoping to be finished by spring of 2027 for a grand opening in fall of 2027. All of that obviously contingent on weather and economy and this and that and the other thing. But that's the plan right now. But in the meantime, they're already open. They're already teaching students. I believe I was told this morning hours are 8 to 8. They have their own separate security entrance and security and stuff. You can't they've got separate parking area. They are walled off from just like anybody else would. They can't just walk out onto the runway or something. They've got to go through security and through a building and stuff to get out to the planes and do their things. So,
so this is going to make an impact in our skies.
This will be more.
You're going to see it. You're going to see it. So everybody get ready. They're not going to be drones. They're going to be flights.
These will be
at night. A lot of these guys have to fly at night.
There is some night. Yeah, there's some night flying. Now, I don't know. Again, they're saying 8 to 8, so maybe would they do their night train maybe early in the evening? It seems like. So, yeah. So that's good news, I guess, generally. And I think even they said they're even going to be running like student shuttles back and forth from the main campus down to here for some of the students. So
okay, so how many of them are going to be stopping to buy gas?
Well, not the ones on the shuttle won't be.
Okay,
so, last big meeting of the week that we're going to get into Thursday, we had the Planning Commission meeting. I was at this one. I'm on the Planning Commission. This is City Planning Commission. I just want to give a brief explanation because there was an article from our buddy at Shelbyville Scoop on Friday where he was talking about all the coffee shops going in on North Main Street.
Yeah.
And we've covered this before. It's funny. Every time somebody posts about this, everybody's like, there's a Dutch Brothers coming. I'm like, we've been talking about Dutch Brothers coming for like a year, but there's people that obviously don't pay attention or
forget about it.
Yeah, forget about it. So, but there was a couple comments on this thread about, there was one in particular saying that the city needs to fire their planning director for bringing this many coffee shops and building them on North Main Street.
Here's the thing that blows my mind. These companies that want to come here are not owned by our government.
Believe it or not,
the city does not open up coffee shops.
The planning department does not have a construction division that comes out and builds buildings. And the planning department doesn't get to tell Starbucks, oh, you want to come to town, you're only allowed to go here.
Yeah. They go buy the property.
The private company comes into town, looks at zoning laws and regulations, looks at existing business, and says, hey, I want to be here. And as long as they're within the correct zoning and legal guidelines, they build their business there.
If you don't want a Starbucks or Dutch Brothers there and you're upset about it, just don't buy their coffee.
Well, and how about you go buy this empty building on Madison Street and open your own whatever you're asking for. So a lot of the pushback and a lot of the comments were, why is the city not putting things on Madison Street? Why are they not putting on South Canton? It's because Starbucks came in, looked at the city, looked at the demographics, looked at the other businesses and said, I want to be on North Main Street. I live here. I know North Main Street's already too congested, but I can't tell Starbucks, man, I wish you'd go to Madison Street. So
hey, their demographics tell them to go toward the congestion.
They want to go towards the crowd.
Okay, if I'm doing it, I want to go down Madison Street where there's less. I mean, because if you got a good product, people will drive to you.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was talking to somebody in planning actually at the meeting, and they were like, I don't go to the new McDonald's. I go to the one on Madison Street because there's way less traffic.
Exactly.
So, you know, go there with your pocketbook, spend your money, and maybe more businesses will.
But the thing is, don't be jumping on the planning department. They're doing their job. They're not. Their job is not to go out and start businesses. Okay, our taxpayer money needs to pave streets, pay police officers, pay for fire protection, and all the infrastructure and all that. The city and the county does not have any private businesses started.
No,
that's not going to happen.
No, and what control they have is in the form of zoning. It's zoned, so they can't build a Starbucks in my neighborhood because it's residential.
Right.
But if it's commercial zone and it's on a main strip, if they meet all the building requirements, they're going to put a Starbucks there.
Yeah.
So, not a whole lot planning can do about it. So people give the planning department a lot more credit than I think they're due. They think they're doing it all.
I know
from picking the spot to building the building. So, just wanted to kind of clear that up. Another point I want to make, as someone that now sits on the planning commission, I don't know how many people even watch this meeting. I'll say right on the front end, there were 4, 5, 6 projects that I had to vote yes on at this meeting that were bad projects. We've got old regulations still on the books, some that need to be fixed, some that have been fixed. We had to approve townhome developments, a couple in particular, that had no garages and 2 parking spaces per unit and no guest parking. So if your neighbor has 3 friends over and you get home late from work, you're in a fight with your neighbor over parking. I wish I could just vote no on that, but these are administrative decisions. Some of these that are taken by planning, and you can't, as long as they meet the requirement at the time that they submit the application, you don't have any choice but to accept it. So, and those are things that I've been working on. I've only been in council, obviously, for a month or two, is we need to up those standards. That's what we talked about. I talked about, going back a year now. We need to improve our standards so that we don't have to vote yes on those things.
Exactly.
But for the moment, we've got stuff coming in. And if you look at that and say, why in the world did you vote yes on that?
If they checked the box.
If they checked it, you didn't have a choice.
Right.
So getting into some actual projects, though, the big one, Remington Farms, which is the proposed subdivision going in on the swing property behind Jostens, Union Street. This has been back and forth since December 2023. The decision was made to defer it for 90 days. Let's get into why. And let's first, because we teased at the beginning, let's go backwards. November 2023, they had a neighborhood meeting, the developer did. And I was digging through my paperwork this time to do my preparation, and I found a letter they sent to the city, November 2023. This is a summary of the Remington Farms public meeting, and we'll just read a couple paragraphs. There were 9 individuals or couples present, not including those from the developer or planning office. Of the 9, 3 were from Cloverdale, and the rest were from Union Station. 120 invitations were sent. We'll get back to that in a minute in the discussion. The most notable person from Union Station was Josh Blevins, who is a community activist with a website known as Shelbyville Now. Community activist.
Troublemaker.
The Union Station visitors learned that there was no connectivity between the two subdivisions and that there would be turn lanes added. This seemed to satisfy them.
Really?
That's not, that part's not true, but the whole letter was noteworthy to me because we weren't even doing our show yet in November of 2023. We weren't doing a weekend update. I'd written a couple articles for you, I think, that were posted on Facebook, and somehow I had magically become a notable community activist.
Okay, to the developer, that put this together.
Yeah.
That meeting didn't satisfy the citizens out there, the fact that those two are not going to be connected.
No, that whole letter was not accurate.
It's fiction.
So,
it's fiction. Okay. It's a fairy tale. Yeah. Okay. It sounds good on paper to justify what you're trying to do. And I get you're trying to make as much money as possible.
Right.
I get that.
Yeah.
And to call you an activist, basically you're a representative of the people, Josh. That's what you have been from day one on this, because you hear what people are talking about. And you give those people a voice. A lot of people are shy. They're shy. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to. But there was petitions signed along the way on the Jennings Lane property.
Right.
This same area that we're talking about here, people are concerned about the high density coming in. That's the bottom line.
Oh, sure.
And you can't sweep that under the carpet.
Yeah. And
you an activist ain't going to make it go away.
No, yeah. As if I was some kind of a whack job or something, which some people probably feel like I'm a whack job, but that's okay. Whatever. That's their opinion. But also note, and I noticed this, and I had not known this till I literally just saw this letter this time, but they only sent 120 postcards to surrounding neighbors. Well, I can tell you my neighborhood has 250 houses in it. And Cloverdale area has a lot more than that in it. So they didn't even come close to even notifying, a big chunk of the surrounding area. And I'm sure there's some kind of legal requirement. They probably took a circle that was exactly however many, whatever and I don't know what the law is. It may be, 0.5 miles or 0.4, but they took that exact circle. And if you weren't in the circle, you didn't get a postcard. Right. So, I found the whole letter a little funny that again, I had barely even, we weren't doing a show.
I know.
We'd done maybe one or two little articles in writing, no video or anything really at that point. And suddenly we were already a community activist stirring things up.
Right.
So, but to get to the actual meat of the matter, Remington Farms deferred for 90 days. They have, and this was, I had this information for a couple weeks, but it wasn't public yet, but we can talk about it now. They made an offer to our county school board maybe a couple weeks ago to give to the county 24 acres of this property to build what would be essentially, it doesn't have a name because it doesn't even exist, what would essentially be West Side Elementary School for the county, for Bedford County. This would alleviate some of the residential traffic concern because it would obviously reduce the number of units they're able to put on the property. So they would lose 24 acres. All those they would be taken away from the townhome part of the development is what they're telling us. None of this has been given to us on paper. This was all verbal. And I went to that school board meeting and tried to talk to a couple school board members last week, I think it was. And they had received the proposal, but nobody wanted to talk about it. And the earliest action is expected to be at a March school board meeting. So this is kind of a new wrinkle that has come into this development. Obviously, it's been public sentiment has not been with this development due to the size. A lot of things we've talked about, the density, lack of access to the neighborhood, poor green space. The list goes on.
Well, the biggest issue that I hear is traffic down 41A.
Traffic.
Getting on to 41A. Yeah. The arteries coming into 41A, having to sit and wait already today.
Yeah.
It's a disaster.
So putting a school on the front of that property, not the very front, there's the first.
This is a terrible idea, Josh.
I haven't seen anything in writing, so I don't want to completely shut down that idea yet, but I'm just want people to know that's what the proposal
is.
Let's
think about this for a second.
Yeah.
When you put a school in place, what do you usually have coming into that school every morning and every afternoon?
I would expect traffic.
Lots of cars.
I would think.
Okay.
Cars.
So if you're zoned for that school, and let's say you're over here and you never come to this road, but you got to bring your kid to school, you're going to bring more traffic into a problem already.
That seems like we're going.
This is kind of like putting honey out for the bees to come to, or the bugs to come to, or the ants to come to, whatever. So this just sounds it's just a bad idea.
Yeah. So what is going to happen? Because they'd actually just asked for 60 days, but I brought up the question at the meeting, can you figure out your school situation in 60 days? They said there's no way. I said, does 90 help? They said yes. So we're going to give them 90 days. They've got to go back and look on the traffic side. If they remain at 715 units, which is the current proposal, they have to fix the intersection at Cloverdale, the intersection at Jennings Lane, the intersection at Green Hills, the intersection at Mack.
Right.
By adding turn lanes to all four of those major intersections, they have to put a turn lane in at their entrance, which would be the main entrance, which will be next to Jostens. And then there's an additional 400 feet of center turn lane that need to be added at the intersection of Union Street, Elm, and Colorado there, the big intersection there in front of the gas station.
Boy.
That intersection, because of underground utilities, because of businesses in the area, because of above ground utilities, is likely, and nobody could come up with a figure because it's just such.
No,
I mean, you can't even imagine project.
No, this
probably
is
a multi-million-dollar fix there. That particular intersection, TDOT, all the first ones I mentioned, TDOT was very clear. The developer is responsible for the entirety of those costs. So they've got to cover those costs. The big intersection, that would come down to a negotiation between the city and the developer. Say we got $1 for, I'll just throw it out there, $4 million. What percentage of that would the developer be responsible? Would they be responsible for 30%? Would they be responsible for 50%?
Josh, you're talking about a massive project here.
Oh, it's a huge project. So, so that's what the 715. Now, the alternative, if they put the school in, that cuts them down to 500 rooftops, reduces their responsibility on the traffic because they're not the full cause of traffic. Now the school maybe is a bigger traffic issue. So does that shift traffic liability on Union Street to the county? Does the county need to fix the road now? That's a question that we don't know until this proposal goes forward. But that's another concern is could traffic liability shift?
Right.
Could the school be being used just as a political ploy?
It's exactly what
we heard on the TDOT side of things. When TDOT came down harsh originally, they tried the old let me talk to the manager approach of going to the guys higher up on the chain and got shot down.
Right.
So is this just another political move? We don't know.
This is exactly this is a bribe to the Bedford County Board of Education, and then it throws the monkey on your back when you're sitting here trying to say, well, we got to stop this. It makes you look like you're saying no to a school. It's what it does. And that's not what any of this is about.
No,
it's not about a school. So take that off the table. Yes. This is about traffic flow and quality of life on the west side of town, which is very dear to me because that's where I grew up. And I drive out there now, and it's a disaster already. Don't get me started on that, but it needs to be planned properly. Right. And this is not the proper way.
It's not feeling good right now. So again, I want to see the proposal, the written proposal on the school thing. Yeah. We'll first see, does the school board even take action in March? I don't know yet. If they've not publicly committed any action. This was just conversations privately with them and the developer, privately with me and the school board. So we'll see what happens on the school board side of things, what it ends up being. But I just want people on the west side of town to know we've now got two possible competing proposals on that same piece of property. If you live over there, at some point, I mean, I'd love to hear from them at any time, but definitely once we have more information, I'd like to hear from residents over there how they feel about it. That's why I got into office on that side of town. I want to hear from the people around and represent them as best I can. So let me see if there's anything else on that. Okay, yeah, I think kind of we covered it. The other big things on that agenda were just neighborhoods, townhomes. A lot of them were not great. There's big parking issues with them, but everything got passed at that meeting except for Remington Farms, which got deferred for 90 days. And then there was an additional one set of townhomes off Green Lane that their parking was so bad. The original proposal was, we've got 2 parking spaces, one in the driveway and one in the garage.
Yeah.
And they said, no, you cannot count the garage as one of your 2 parking
because the next parking place is the street.
Yeah, and there was no street parking.
Okay.
So that was it. So you literally had in your 2 parking by the code, you got to have 2 outdoor parking spaces. You can't count the garage as one of your, because if you could do that, then you could just put a 2-car garage and have no parking spaces outside. Yeah. So that one got deferred 1 month. Remington Farms deferred 90 days, and there'll be a lot more going on in planning, and we'll keep covering it going forward. But at that point, now that we are
1 hour into
this, I told you it was going to be long,
and I'm gonna take it a little bit longer
because
we have a comment from Steve Jordan that I want to address here.
Sure,
we're going back to the coffee shops and government not in charge of business. Okay, then we should have a government official invite other businesses and turn the coffee shops, car washes. I think he means turn down the coffee shop. I don't know for sure, Steve. You might want to rephrase that. And turn the coffee shops, car washes, vape shops, and Mexican restaurants. There's some kind of political influence here under the eyes of the public. Okay, so here's my take on that. I think free market capitalism takes care of it. I think that if a company comes here that shouldn't be here, they'll be out of business quick if they misjudge the demographics. But businesses coming into this town, they check the demographics to see if their businesses will be a success.
Right.
If vape shops come in, there's a reason vape shops are coming in. Because we got a lot of vapors. Okay. All right. If Mexican restaurants are coming to town, that means we've got a lot of Mexican restaurant patrons.
Yeah.
Okay. If car washes come to town, that means we've got a lot of car wash.
A lot of dirty cars.
Dirty cars.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think, and yes, we do recruit businesses. I know Randy Carroll and people with
Scott
the city.
Collins
they're trying to attract businesses to town.
Right.
Okay. They're trying to put the best foot forward. That's the end of it. From that point forward, that business has to make the decision what location that's suitable, what's best for them, and they're the ones spending the money. So I think free market capitalism, I'm a conservative and I believe that way.
Sure.
I honestly believe that takes care of things. If a business comes and they make a mistake by coming to Bedford County or Shelbyville, then the economics will drive them out.
That'll close them down.
Yes, so, and that's my take on it, Steve.
Yeah.
I don't know. Government doesn't need to have a whole lot of influence on business. It needs to stay out of the private business world. Recruiting and trying to get them to come is one thing. And putting out your best foot and trying to keep things in order around here to attract good businesses. Yeah. It's the people that have the money that's putting the money in and investing in the business that make that final decision and where they're going to go. Then the city has their codes and their planning. Does it fit there? Is that a proper fit? Right. Then that's the only interaction there should be, but not touting or not degrading. It's business. It's a free market capital system that we live in this country. Yeah. And I think it has to stay that way. Even in Shelbyville, Tennessee, it needs to stay that way.
It does. And I know everybody would love to have another grocery store in South Canton. We wish we had more grocery stores on Madison. And they may eventually come depending on, the direction the city goes, but we can't force them there. We can't say
you got to go here.
Yeah, you've got to go to Madison Street. If there's an empty piece of property on North Main Street and they want to put it there and it's zoned correctly,
let me tell you what happens to a business person that comes in here and says, I need to be located here. And then a city official comes up and says, well, you can't go there. You got to go here. You know what I'm doing?
Lawsuit.
See ya.
Well, or leave. Yeah,
I'm
leave.
gone.
Yeah.
I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I'm out of here. I'll go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Okay, so the owner is at risk.
Yeah.
These people are at risk
when they
put their money away. It's their money.
They could lose it all.
So we can't try to control them and their stuff. If they come in and they fit to that code situation and it's suitable, then great, go for it.
They're going to that spot.
The other part of it, free market capitalism takes care of it.
Oh, yeah. They'll be out of business if they don't have the business to support it. So with that, we're so long, but we still have stuff to talk about coming up next week. Let's hear from our sponsor one more time, and then we'll go into that real quick.
Get the results you want with the personalized service you deserve at Dennis Young Insurance Agency.
As a local independent agency, we offer coverage from several different companies, including Erie. So whether it's auto, home, life, personal, or business, we can find the right coverage to meet your unique insurance needs. And with a rate lock advantage, your rates won't go up as long as you do not change drivers, autos, or addresses. Contact us at Dennis Young Insurance Agency, insuring Shelbyville and surrounding areas since 19...
All right, welcome back in here. We're going to wrap things up, but Josh, tell us where we're headed this week.
Where we're headed this week, hopefully not as busy as this past week, but we'll see. Today, I want to point out from 11 to 5 at Whiskey City Grill, which is used to be Highway 55 and Better Days Diner.
11 to 5? They're already 3 minutes into that.
They're already 3 minutes into it because we've gone so long. They're having a fundraiser for veterans. Cooking with a Veteran is there for $25. You can get you some good food, I think a burger and a fries and a drink, and support veterans. So if you want to get out there today, 11 to 5. This is not this week, but I want to go ahead and start mentioning this a little bit early. Wednesday, February 5th from 9 to 7 at the Cooper Steel Arena Hall of Fame room. We have the Battle of the Badges blood drive, and they're trying to get as many people out as they can to give blood. They're having it as kind of a competition between police, fire, and EMS to see who can get the most people out. So look on our Facebook. We've posted about it. There's a link there where you can go and register for that. As far as city and county meetings, Tuesday at noon, the city council's meeting for a study session on that waste transfer station. We talked about that extensively a week or two ago. This is another information. This is the kind of meeting that I wish we were going to be having on the wastewater authority. So maybe the county could take a little hint from this meeting and do a similar kind of meeting. So that'll be streamed on YouTube. I'll be there in person as well. Tuesday at 4:15 p.m., the County Finance Committee will meet and have their monthly meeting. Nothing crazy on the agenda, but I'll be at that one just to watch. And then Wednesday morning, 9:30 a.m., Ducks on Electra will have their grand opening, and I will be at that. Rumor is the governor may or may not come down for that. So they'll be having, I'm sure, ribbon cutting and speeches and all that, jazz. So I'm just hoping to kind of be able to peek around and see what it looks like on the inside if they let me. So
yeah. I also have an announcement.
Yeah.
The warming center at Fairhaven Baptist Church. I got this. It was sent last night, but I didn't see it till this morning. And John Hall has headed that up.
Yes, they've done
a great job. They've had a lot of people there, up close to 20 people some nights.
Good.
And here's an announcement from them. Due to the long-term forecast of temperatures above the dangerous level criteria we set for the emergency warming shelter, tonight will be the last night of operations, which was last night, Friday night. Everyone at the shelter is aware that we are shutting the shelter down tomorrow morning. All are prepared to help clean and reset the equipment and building back to original setup. Everything will be sanitized when we leave. We are extremely grateful to the wonderful businesses, churches, the soup kitchen, individual citizens, and certainly Fairhaven Baptist Church for making the emergency warming shelter possible during the past 19 days. It was open for 19 days. Bottom line is we have everything in place to close the shelter and get the FHBC youth building back to its original state. The community has provided such great support, encouragement through this whole crisis. Thank you for everything, John. And that's awesome work that they've done out there. And thank you, John Hall, for seeing to that. Last year, when people were being hauled to Murfreesboro, there was nothing here, and we kind of threw this up at the last minute and got a few. But this year, it was planned ahead and was ready for this. And I'm sure if we have another snap like we've had,
I'm sure they'll be back open if they had to.
But right now, it's done. Since the temperatures have gone up above that threshold that they had set, which was 32 degrees, I think, for a 24-hour period. I forget what it was now, but that's over with. And one other last thing, Steve Jordan came back and he was talking about all these getting turned away, and so did Publix. The government did not turn all these away, nor did they turn away Publix. Publix decided to pull out, and from what I understand, all is still on the table. That's rumors I'm hearing. I don't know how true that is, but
yeah, I don't know, but I can tell you specific, and I don't know those two specific cases, but from the city side anyways, we've not turned down any business wanting to come into town that I'm aware of, and I don't think we would. So unless there was a safety or a zoning issue or some kind of legal reason, but neither of those.
None of that. It's all about demographics. That's why Publix did not come. They don't think Shibbol's quite there yet, from what I'm told.
Yeah.
And one day we might have a Publix, but I don't think our government's going to entice them to blow money in a place that they're going to lose their rears.
Yeah. The only business in town that the government had any impact on was they did give money to the Chick-fil-A developer when they came in, which we were not a big fan of that, giving private business government money. But other than that, as far as turning down any business,
the reason I was told that happened is that they were probably 5 years away from coming here because we weren't quite ready. And the city offered that $300,000, and that enticed him to go ahead and pull the trigger ahead of schedule. So,
we're glad. I get me some Chick-fil-A every now and again. So I'm
but our government is not turning down businesses. No. I promise you that.
No.
All right,
we're not. So
it's been a long one, Josh. Thanks for all the hard work and you kind of organizing this flow of things today. Thanks, guys, out there for watching. We're going to come back next week, same time, same place, and I'm sure there's going to be something happen this week that's going to come from left field.
Absolutely, and I'm notable community activist Josh Blevins. Thanks for being with us.
All right, troublemaker.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
Have a great day.